Hey there, Papa Smith here, and today we are going to redo my drip irrigation line. I tried an experiment last year with overhead watering with impact sprinklers, and it was a failed experiment. So I'm going back to drip lines, and I'm going to show you how I set everything up from the very beginning. So stay tuned. This will be a good one, guys. Alright, so this is my spigot. This is where the water comes from the for the outside. This one over here on the far left-hand side is the one that goes out to the garden. Okay, these other two are for hand watering. One goes in the backyard, the other one goes in the front. And we were thinking about hooking up irrigation in the front yard also, so that's why that one's just kind of left blank. Anyways, for our purposes, we're just worried about the one that's on the far left, for the irrigation. And the first thing you should do is actually not just hook it up to the line like that. I did that just to flush out the lines that I had there. But the first thing you should do is put on one of these backflow regulators. This keeps everything from going back into the house or going back into the spigot when the water is shut off, so there's no back pressure going back in. So this should be the very first thing you hook up, goes right onto the faucet there. And then after that, you would want to hook up your timer on the other end. So if you had some sort of a timer or automatic watering system that you had for your garden, that will go on second. So the backflow regulator first, the timer, and then you can hook up your line to that timer. For today's purposes, I'm just going to use this backflow regulator, and my timer's inside the house somewhere. I didn't feel like digging it out, so you're just going to see this. You'll see that here in just a second. So there it is, all hooked up. The last thing to do would be get a screwdriver and really cinch that down. That way, if there's any tug or any tension on here, it doesn't loosen this up from the faucet and doesn't strip it in any sort of way. So that would be the last step on that. I'll take you down a little bit further where there's a few other parts to before you get to the drip lines. So the lighting's a little bit weird in this spot. There's a trellis right here behind me, but this next part is the regulator for the flow going outward. So the one you saw before was the back pressure regulation to make sure it doesn't go back into the house. This regulates the pressure going out and towards the line. You see a big 25 psi there, so I'm guessing that's what's allowed to go out and towards the drip lines. Usually the manufacturer of the drip lines will have a recommendation, or they'll have a few products like this in a chart to kind of guide you in the right direction to tell you which one would be most appropriate for your home and your situation. I did all that research some years ago, and this was the one that I ended up picking up from the drip company, and it's been working ever since. I haven't had to replace it or anything like that. So that is the flow going out. That goes directly into one of the main lines here. As you can see, it's connected there. And then that is what goes right out into the garden. So next, I will show you guys kind of where the main line lies in the garden, and then where I'm going to puncture my holes to get the actual drip lines in, the 1/4 inch drip lines. Alrighty, so you can see where the main line is coming from the front down to the back here. This is where it elbows, and get my shadow out the way. That main line just goes pretty much all the way down the length of the garden. It even cricket necks are a little bit around. It gets to that last bed all the way down there. So that's just the main tubing, the main line there. And then next thing I need to show you guys is where I'm punching my holes, why I'm doing that, and then I'll show you guys how I lay the 1/4 inch lines. So to get enough surface area to cover the entire width of each of my beds, I determined that at least 3 drip lines are going to need to go in. So they're going to kind of be oriented the same way. I got these hooked up at the ends. They'll all kind of come to a meeting point here. So it'll be a completely closed system even within each bed. And that'll run the entire length of the beds here. Now this line is some old line that I had from a couple years ago, and so this isn't obviously the right length or what have you. It's the right size, the right tubing, just not enough of it. So I got some fresh lines I can add to this. I've also got some extra cordage there from prior years, so between that and what I bought, I think I ought to be able to get everything covered. But that is how many lines are going to run in each bed. Now, because there's going to be 3 individual 1/4 inch lines, that means that on the main line here, I'm going to need to punch in 3 different holes with this little guy here. This is like the tool that they gave you to punch holes in it. It's not coming into focus really well, but literally you just kind of push into it and punch the holes in. So I'll do 3 for each of the beds, going all the way down the length here. So a whole bunch of holes. I'll show you that once I'm done with that task. I hope that the camera can pick this all up, but there's one hole for this bed. Where's the other one? There it is. There's the second hole. And there's the third hole. You can see the other 2 holes a lot easier. So anyways, I did that for all the beds, going all the way down, with the exception of this bed here. I realized that bed number 2 is a thinner bed, and it is for just squashes and sunflowers, and so they're not going to need the ground space completely covered. They just need to be pretty much dripped on right where they're going to be planted. So 2 lines in this bed will be more than sufficient, but the rest of them, they needed the wider spread coverage, so that I gave them all 3. Doesn't the garden look nice? It's starting to look nice, starting to come together. Anyways, so the next part of the process would be to put the couplers on, and then to actually put the 1/4-inch lines on next. So we'll show you that process next. So you can see right there in my hand is the barbed little coupler there. I'm simply going to press one barbed end into the main line, and then the other end is where the 1/4-inch line will be connected to. So first I'm just going to put a whole bunch of these all the way up and down to fill up all of the holes that I put into the main line. So that'll be the next step. I just wanted to mention it's easier to do every step of this on a nice warm day. The day that I'm starting this on is a actually pretty cool spring day. It's pretty cold out here, so this is not the easiest to work with because the material is all tough and hard and stiff. So getting these little things inside are kind of hard. So if I struggle with this today, I might come back to this. You might end up seeing me on a different day. But I wanted to tell you guys that doing this on a warm day might be a good step or a good thing to consider when putting these together. So the next part was to add these little barbed couplers to the main line, and I've already done that. You can see I put that in these 3 holes that I have for this bed. Did that all the way down the line on each end. To help myself out with that, I did end up using a pair of pliers just so I get a little bit more real estate when grabbing it, because trying to do it with just your fingers and your fingertips trying to press into there proved to be pretty hard there. So I ended up using a pair of pliers, and I cannot stress to you how much easier it is to work with this when it is set out in the sun, when the main line itself has been set out in the sun and it warms up. The whole tubing is just a lot more flexible, easier to work with, and actually you could probably punch these in with your fingertips just by yourself without much issues, unless you have weak hands or arthritis or something of that nature. Otherwise, like I said, just grab a pair of pliers, grip it on either end, and that should help you get the leverage that you need to push those in. Next, just need to add 1/4-inch lines to it. So I finally have all of my beds done. I'll show you how I hooked them up. So here's where they hook up to the main line. There's all 3 of those for this bed, for this system. The lines run all the way the length of the bed, and they connect down here at the end where I put an elbow joint on either end and a T-joint right in the middle to make each bed its own closed system. So I did that for all of the beds so that each bed has its own individual closed system, and then I'll show you what happens at the very end of the main line here. So to cap off the end of the main line, we just put one of these end caps here at the very end. And the system is actually running right now. I'll see if I can find a spot where you see that water dripping out. So all the drippers are running, works in all of the beds all over the garden. Hope you liked today's content. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Make sure you always donate to your local homeless shelters and donate to your local food pantries. I'll catch you guys later.